Yeah, we just tried to get as close to the sun as we possibly can. Get them in the sunshine.
When you're dealing with 93 million miles to start with, a few feet.
I see him every day. I'd rather not see him today.
Warm puppy.
I brought wifey along. It can't be a big thing.
All right, I'll just
Morning.
I see you.
It's all part of What? Oh yeah, yeah. See you again. Okay. We're awake, yeah. Well, that might help you.
Thank you.
We'll do it.
Well, we love that.
You're in Michigan, where are you there?
We're going out on the dock.
Yeah, I stopped by there. Bert Barnes.
Bert Barnes. That's John Witter. Did you know him or
I
is he
helped
just coming in
select him.
probably? Is that right?
Brad Knight and I walked out of the door together in May of '72. He went to Maine. Honolulu.
We're happy to have him in this area, and he's one of us, really. Mike grew up on Moose Lake, went to high school here, and was a guide and in the area before he went on to become a fisheries biologist and has a PhD in fisheries biology and animal biology. He's held several important positions with the government, and now he's our chief. So we're here this morning so that you can get to know Mike and maybe ask some questions and just get to know him. And we hope you'll be able to join us at some of the other activities that we're going to have today that Mike's going to participate in. So we're happy to have you here with us.
Thank you, Ellen. What I'd like to do is eat my pancakes. They just came.
Why don't I just go ahead and do that, and then we'll go ahead and visit. I'd like to, mostly hear from you and what's on your minds. So why don't we all eat, and in about 10 minutes I'll say a few things about the natural resources agenda, tell a few stories about my old office mate, and then we will continue.
Howard or Badwick?
That's scary.
I ordered just a short stack.
Yeah, Howard Mike didn't get a chance to roast you at your retirement, did he? He can.
No, I left just before Howard did.
Yeah, he was gone.
Yeah, I got blueberries in there. That must be yours, Pat.
This must be mine.
Rods out, and I got one on one rod, and I was pulling him in, and one hit the other rod, and I had said, Stuart, here you need some help. So he pulled that one in. One of them made 11 pounds, and the other was 11 and a half pounds. We let them all go. But anyhow, so now it's a matter. I can't get into that area by myself because Stuart knew the guy and got in with Stuart. Anyhow, Craig and I,
So
where?
I never heard the end of it. We were down with Paul Bruja
Yeah.
and Bob Nelson on. Bruja has a farm down in Alabama, so we went down between Christmas and New Year's, and 60 deer per square mile.
60.
Yeah, and
That's better than Wisconsin.
but I'll tell you, those the only way you can hunt them there is, in a stand. And for permits, you could shoot a total of I think 34 deer a season down there. Yeah, one a day for anybody. And
Yeah.
so Mary and I hunted together, and I said, well, you shoot the first one, I'll shoot the second one. So one day, big doe came out, and that's what, they don't want you to shoot bucks, they want you to shoot does down there. And so she shot the doe, and I said, okay, next one, I get to shoot. Well, the next morning, a really nice 8-point buck came out, so I had to tell her. Well, have you done your road trip yet this year? Or is this one of them?
This is it.
This is it, huh?
Yeah, we left.
Well, I had a good week here.
Good.
I've been hiding on Moose Lake all week.
How come you're having it so doggone early? I mean, this 7 o'clock business for us retirees.
I know. Well, you guys are just spoiled, That's all. Well, it's good to see you.
Good. Well, we'll probably,
Well, you sit down and order.
People, morale is certainly way poorer, and that they see is really being corrosive is when people don't even feel good about their own job.
Bomb shelter on Fifth Avenue in Kirkland. That's what it was. Well, it seemed like it. It was an old brick building. It was awful.
It had 3 windows.
And I didn't have one. No, that's for sure.
Cookie said this is your home, huh?
I went to high school. I grew up in the Moose Lake area. Great school. Near Moose Lake. Where you live in here in Heyward or in Glidden?
not far from there, we got
Great to be back. Yeah. Well, that's nice country down there too. Ethan, how are you this morning? Good, how are you? Fine. Everybody.
Okay. If I could have your attention again.
Glad to meet you. A name I can remember. I better have some pancakes.
Morning, country, because we're in challenging times, and many of you are right in the middle of it. You're right in the middle of it every day, and we have people like Braveleg here that are smiling more than he ever has, and I think you know why. And Howard Sheldon, I thought I would tell some stories, but I'm only going to tell one, and that's that Howard always got 2 desserts when he and I were office mates, and then he would give them both to me. But I really figured that if I started telling too many stories, that some of the others would start coming around and backfire on me. I don't want people like George Lennon. George is our director of public affairs and communications for the Washington office. New to the Forest Service, I wanted to make sure you met George. Diane Maxwell is here helping us out. And where's Donna Janish? Donna just left. Donna is my secretary, and they heard all these fish stories about Heyward and Sawyer County and Moose Lake. They had to come and see if it were really true. These, as I said, are challenging times, not only for the Forest Service, but for all agencies. And I just want to kind of set a context. By the way, someone told me that Mike Boblik was an excellent employee, and I can verify that. He used to work for me. This is not a story, Mike. You got a couple of compliments this morning. You know, in the 1960s and 70s, the public approval rating of government was about 60 to 70%, and it hit a low point in about 1989 and 1990 of 19%, and it's starting to creep up again. And we're caught in that as an agency, as part of the United States government and what we do for the American people. And we do have some challenges, and we have a tendency to sometimes get in the doldrums and worry about things too much. But I want to tell you a few stories that will, I think, maybe paint somewhat of a different picture. Robert Lewis, who is the Deputy Chief for Research and Development of the Forest Service, and I were in Turkey last year. And one of the things that comes with this job of chief is a lot of things that you do that are just representing the agency, that you're really not the expert, but you're just there. And in Turkey was the International Forestry Conference. It's held every 7 years, and there were 47 delegates from the U.S., and the chief is automatically the head of the U.S. delegation. And there are people like state foresters, academia, industry, agency people, and I wasn't head of the delegation because my name was Mike Dombeck. I was head of the delegation because I was head of this agency. And the thing that impressed me most was the fact that people were standing in line to talk to us. And we had, the Indonesians were just so grateful for us being there to help them with the terrible fire situation that they had in Indonesia. The people from China were there wanting to talk to us. The natural resource managers from Scandinavia, from Brazil, from Mexico, from all over the place. And the reason that I mention that is they have tremendous respect for what we do. In fact, we're harder on ourselves sometimes than many of the other nations are. And we have that respect because this agency employs, you know, in everything that we do. And we have the best science and technologies in the world. And we need to remind ourselves of that, because that's the way we're viewed by a lot of people, is, you know, an organization with a workforce that's the best at what they do. And people want us to succeed. And the other story I want to tell you was I had a chance to go to Florida to look at the fire situation with the Vice President at the end of June. Got to fly in Air Force Two, rode in the back, but that's okay. And we did a variety of things, and you know, Florida was just a tragic situation. And we stopped and visited some fire crews. We stopped in a subdivision where 28 homes had burned. And we had a meeting with some of the local residents there. And a few homes were saved and some were burned. And you can imagine how people feel if you've just all lost all of your possessions and your house is gone, and a variety of people in one of the homes. And as we were walking around the back of the house, the owner of the house said to the vice president, if it hadn't have been for the Forest Service, we'd have lost our house. Think about these successes and the things that we do for the people. And the next thing I want to challenge you and ask you is who's going to want us in 10 years and 20 years as we move through this era of seeming controversy with many decisions appealed and litigated and all of the things we deal with. And I think our challenge is to focus ahead and what value will the National Forest, the research that we do, the social needs of the day. And again, if you think back to the Gifford Pinchot era and think about what this country looked like at the turn of the century, with the pineries gone, the Peshtigo fire. Old Free Metcalf, one of the old neighbors, told me about when I lived out at Moose Lake as a kid, how you could read a news. That was the context of the turn of the century and the genesis of the Forest Service. And the Appalachian Mountains, same story. Topsoil off the mountains, into the streams, tremendous watershed degradation. Some of the neighbors were just showing me some more pictures of what this area looked like in 1910, and I think most of you have seen that. An agency like this was formed around principles of watershed management, reforestation, and forest management. Really meshed with the social needs of the day, and that's the CCC era. And I had two uncles in CCC camps, grew up not far from Camp Sawyer, and those people that were in the CCC era that are still alive today, it would be young men and women, thank goodness, out of work. And the Forest Service, again, came to the table, put hundreds and literally thousands of people to work, restoring watersheds, reforesting barren landscapes, training them, developing recreation sites. And it was a time that we really meshed with the social needs of the day. The next cross-section, right after World War II, the agency again stepped up to the plate. Prosperity, post-war housing boom, was part of turning the United States into a family of single-family homes, turned into an organization. Said to me, they said, you know, Mike, we want our forests to look like forests. We don't want to look at clear cuts. We don't want to look at bug-killed, diseased forests, and we don't want to look at mountainsides that are burned from a catastrophic fire. And, you know, we're the organization that knows how to do that, and that's the context that we have to work in. And that was, in essence, the four areas that we talk about a lot in the natural resources agenda, and I hope you're all familiar with that. If you're not, give me your name and we'll send you a copy. I'm not new to this agency. In fact, I call it really returning to our roots, because the Forest Reserve Act of 1891 dealt with watersheds and the importance of water. The Organic Administration Act of 1897 talked about no national forest shall be established except to protect the forest within the boundary, to provide a sustainable supply of timber, and secure favorable conditions for water flows. And the Weeks Act of 1911 and the establishment of the Eastern National Forest really revolved around this theme of water. And if there's going to be an issue in the United States context, like we value other uses and products that flow off of the national forest, how important that would be. When I was in this job about 4 months, I met with the four other chiefs. We went to Gray Towers, to Gifford Pinchot's home, and we just locked ourselves in a room for about a day and a half no facilitators or anything like that, and said, talked about their experiences, the challenges the agency had, and where we should be going. And one of the things that, we really need to focus on water and watersheds and that whole context of ecosystem management. People understand watersheds and are comfortable with watersheds, and it's a very important value. I was talking to Jay Cravens, who I know most of you know. He took me to the airport about 2 months ago when I was in Milwaukee. And Jay's a real shy, quiet guy, as some of you know. And I said to Jay, I said, well, how am I doing? And all he said was, if we take care of the soil and the water, everything else will be okay. It's the very basic concepts that we deal with of ecosystem management. Sustainable forest and grassland ecosystem management is another theme of the natural resources agenda, and I won't spend a lot of time talking about that other than the fact that we do have the best technologies in the world, and we need to apply them. But many of our forest management issues today are social issues. But the one thing that we have is we've got the science and technology and years of resource professionalism in this organization. And we just need to get more patient with the system and more comfortable in, as the reinvention hearings told us in the early 90s, that when the Forest Service said, asked the American public, what do you expect of the Forest Service? They said they wanted us to be the educators, the facilitators, and catalysts for bringing people together in local communities. And the communication skills and education skills are more important today than ever. And I see the context of forest management as much of a social issue in building trust, in applying the technologies that we have. Forest roads, we can talk about roads as much as you want to talk about them, but the fact is I took on the roads issue because if there were a major program that was in the emergency room, it was that one. 2 years ago, we came within one vote in the House of Representatives of losing 80% of the program, of its own policies, and laying them on the table for Congress. Then we went into the reactive mode, and I think part of conservation leadership is developing those policies, putting them on the table, and be part of the debate. And if we put 3 or 4 things on the table, we might get 1 or 2. But that's better than reacting to Congress, to other entities, whatever constituency they be, and lay those professionally based policies on the table. And then there's recreation. We're the largest provider of recreation in the United States. 865 million visitor days in 1996. We'll probably be exceeding a billion. And people value national forests with their relationship to quality of life more than ever. And we have to determine and work toward how are we going to fund this organization as times change. And the transition that we're moving from is we were able to fund the Forest Service on the back of timber a few decades ago. KV, brush disposal, all of the offline funds, our roads, those days are over. With quality of life, with open space. Do you know that from 1978 to 1994, the number of tracts of land in the United States, less than 50 acres, doubled? And the large tracts of land, whether they're national forests, national parks, state forests, and private ownerships, are more valuable than ever. And we've got to make sure that people understand why they're important, that we're the stewards of that, and that our ultimate mission is in everything we do, work within the limits of the land to preserve those options for future generations so they'll have a quality of life, places to go hunting, fishing, hiking, biking, camping like we did, and that will become more valuable in the future. And the thing that's important is to simplify our message as much as we possibly can. Why do you think Bill Gates is one of the richest people in the world? A lot of you, even Howard, had studied, DOS, Fortran, COBOL, all of the complexities of the computer language. And what Bill Gates did with this job is, I think about, why is it that natural resource management is so controversial? We're not selling plutonium to anyone. And we need to talk about, hunting and fishing and open space and clean water, healthy forests, vibrant local economies. This is good stuff. And our challenge is to take that positive message every place we go. And that's the way we build our support base. USA Today had a poll that it publishes polls every Thursday. And about two or 3 months ago, the question they asked was how American people want their tax dollars to be spent. And they listed the top 5. Number 1, education. Number 3, security and defense. And number 5 was natural resource management. And there's a basic principle of marketing that says money flows to things that people want. And natural resources is right at the top. And that's why it's so important for us to take our story and tell people every place we go, because money flows to things that people want. And I believe people value healthy resources, healthy forests, recreation opportunities, and all the associated things with that more today than they ever have. So take that story, tell it to anybody that will listen, and that's the way we'll build our support base. I don't believe our budgets have to continue to go down, but it's up to us to tell that story in a positive way, to build that support base and not rely on somebody else to do that. And if each and every one of 30,000 employees tells that story and helps people connect with why land management, why stewardship is important, our budgets can grow. Let me stop there and we'll talk about whatever any of you want to talk about.
Workforce which can do those changes, and we're real proud of ourselves. We do have a problem, you touched on the end on budget, where our average age is something like 48, 49 years old. We're getting to the critical point where how can we keep everything open? We're talking about potentially closing offices, maybe even the Heyward office. How can we get over this hump right now? As you say, it's up to us to get our mission out, and we're going to try and do that. But in the interim here, we're suffering, and as our local community, as our image and everything. Mm-hmm. How can we get over this hump here right now? We're not doing too good right now. Yet our people are extremely capable. We're carrying out our mission. We're doing it. So
yeah.
We're being overtaxed.
Yeah. I obviously don't have all the answers, but a couple of things to keep in mind is